Alright. Hello, Internet. It's Silent Hill 3. We're back. This is a cutscene. We'll shut up.
How did you get here? It was Vincent, wasn't it? He led you here. When will he cease his meddling? But it's just as well. Luring you here also serves my purposes.
Checkmate.
Not yet. The time is not yet at hand. The time when all will be forgiven their sins. When the paradise we have long dreamed for will arrive. After the judgment and atonement, an eternity of bliss. Oh, Alessa, the world you wanted is nearly here.
That's not what I want.
Not you. Alessa, your true self.
But I am Alessa. My little Claudia, my dear sweet sister.
Alessa, is it you? Oh, how I've missed you.
I don't need another world. It's fine the way it is.
But you said it yourself. The world must first be cleansed with fire.
But that's not what I want now.
Alessa, don't you want happiness? Have you become blind to all the hopeless suffering in the world? We all need God's salvation.
Listen, suffering is a fact of life. Either you learn how to deal with that or you go under. You can stay in your own little dream world, but you can't keep hurting other people. Besides, I'll never forgive you for hurting my father.
I wish only for the salvation of mankind. But for that to happen, the world must first be remade. And for that, we need God.
You self-righteous witch! No one asked you to help!
God is growing within you. You despise me, don't you?
You're damned right I do!
That's good.
So there's always a point here where I'm not sure what Heather's motivation was. If she actually is speaking as Alessa, or if it was a ruse to say like, no, I am Alessa. Listen to me.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure she's faking, and she's just trying to.
Yeah, because she puts on the voice.
Yeah, she's just trying to play Claudia, and then can't keep it up when Claudia actually knows how to manipulate somebody.
Yeah,
That was a weird Casablanca reference too.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, Claudia basically just immediately, I don't know if she immediately sees through that, but all she does is try one thing, and Heather folds under manipulation pressure, so.
yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, she was having cramps at the time.
Yeah.
Although the other thing
Sure.
is the counterpoint here is that Heather starts remembering things Alessa remembers.
True, but that is different than actually becoming her.
Also, there's going to be a bit of reading here after the organ.
There's nothing I do with the organ. I don't know how to play anyway.
Also, man, I like that this church can only have an electric organ.
Oh,
Yeah.
the paintings!
Yeah, these are great.
Yes, the paintings.
These are very... we can talk about the inspiration for these, I think.
Origin.
1. Origin. In the beginning, people had nothing. Their bodies ached and their hearts held nothing but hatred. They fought endlessly, but death never came. They despaired, stuck in the eternal quagmire.
Oh man, you know what? I'm excited for you to read one, but I'm gonna be quiet about it.
2. Birth. A man offered a serpent to the sun and prayed for salvation. A woman offered a reed to the sun and asked for joy. Feeling pity for the sadness that had overrun the earth, God was born from those two people. Three, salvation. God made time and divided it into day and night. God outlined the road to salvation and gave people joy. And God took endless time away from the people.
I love these paintings, by the way.
Yeah.
These are
We
very,
can talk
very,
about
very
them
good.
after we get through this.
4. Creation. God created beings to lead people in obedience to her. The red god Zuchilbara,
Oh, so
the yellow
close.
god
You're good.
Labselvith, many gods and angels. Finally, God set out to create paradise where people would be happy just by being there.
You did a super good job.
Zuchilbara?
Zushilabara, something like that.
Zuchilbara.
There's a, I'm gonna shut up.
5. Promise. But there God's strength ran out and she collapsed. All the world's people grieved this unfortunate event, yet God breathed her last. She returned to the dust, promising to come again. Six, faith. So God hasn't been lost. We must offer our prayers and not forget our faith. We wait in hope for the day when the path to paradise will be opened.
So a thing I didn't realize here for a long time is that all of the paintings and pretty much the whole layout of this cathedral, anytime you see artwork anywhere in the cathedral, it is inspired by the paintings of Hieronymus Bosch,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
who
So we can't go
created
back to the amusement park.
created many biblically inspired paintings, although they were all considered very heretical at the time of their creation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, there's so much detail in them. There's actually this really cool interactive exhibit online that you can look up of the Garden of Earthly Delights, where you can just like really zoom in there and music plays.
Yeah,
and
even on even on Wikipedia, the upload, because it's all, oh yeah, this is our map for the chapel.
Sweet.
But even on Wikipedia, the upload of the Garden of Earthly Delights is something like 14,000 pixels by 14,000 pixels, so you can zoom in and look
Awesome.
at everything. I didn't know about an interactive one though.
I'll have to send it to you. Maybe you can link it in the doobly-doo.
Yeah, I'll throw a link.
Also,
down
I'm gonna
there.
shut up.
Oh yeah, this is great.
Dear God, please forgive me. I know I'll be put to death for the sins I've committed. And I'll go to my death gladly and with a peaceful heart. But please, grant me just a small piece of your everlasting mercy. Let me see my child once within your golden gates. Deliver me not to hell, but to purgatory. Allow me to atone for my sins there. I'll stand within the very flames of redemption, no matter how they burn me. Forgive me for my wicked act of revenge. And deliver the soul of my poor murdered daughter. Please, also care for the soul of the girl whose life I have taken. God, I am a child, trembling with fear as I stare at death. Soothe my tortured soul with your infinite mercy. Please, forgive me.
So what will we do?
What will you do? Good choice.
I forgive you.
Thank you, Lord.
So an interesting thing to note here is that that decision actually has a small mechanical consequence. It is a large mechanical consequence inside of a small mechanical consequence. If we want to just peek behind the curtain here for a second.
That's what we've been
We
doing
are in
all
a confession booth.
So there's there's nothing more to be said. You can't talk to her anymore. So there's two different endings you can get in this game. Well, the two different main endings. There's also the UFO ending, which is something entirely different. But there's the
I love the UFO ending.
Deciding the decision on one of those endings. First off, it has to be a second game played on the same file. The other thing is, there's a certain number of points that you get depending on how much damage you've taken and how many enemies you've killed. Saying "I forgive you" to that woman gives you an extra 1,000 points that go towards the total for the other ending. And once your total's over a certain amount, then you are qualified for the other ending.
Cool.
This is also my favorite part. The radio is going crazy here, even though there's nothing.
Yeah. Well,
My
there's
friend.
this.
At this point, fighting almost seems like a letdown.
Oh yeah, you don't
Yes.
you don't want to fight it. Like you really don't want to fight a lot of things here because there are a lot of mandatory combat sections, so you avoid any fights you can.
How do you mean letdown, though?
It just seems like... It seems like we've crossed a threshold beyond which it'd be interesting to not have combat anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and this game very much enforces the idea of don't fight it, just run past it.
Right. But
Yeah.
what I'm imagining here is... Well, for one thing, it seems a little odd that that they came down and were like, you know, I was talking to this deity who loves barbed wire and blood, and he told me he was going to take us to a pretty cool place. But beyond that, I think it'd be interesting to maintain the theming of a chapel as a place of sanctuary, even a chapel of this.
Yeah. I like that idea, too, but also I can understand, even if that was something that they wanted to do at the time with video games and such, the idea of having a game without combat seems like too avant-garde of an idea.
Right. Back then, games still had to be games.
Yeah.
And then also a final climactic section without combat.
Yeah.
We are in the last section of the game now.
Yeah. I mean, and to be fair, like, we are still very much dealing with a religion and a cult that sees, this violence as holy and cleansing. Like, these are angels that we're murdering here. Like, these aren't devils. These are very much things that are prized by these people.
I was going to say earlier when we were reading the paintings, there's a track it's just called Sun. If you could probably look it up on YouTube. But Sun is a reading of all those paintings by Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, who has been the voice of a lot of the vocal tracks that we've heard in Silent Hill so far. It's really good, and it's really cool to listen to her read all those.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things that's interesting about the descriptions on those paintings is talking about God turning time into day and night, which is very analogous to the other world and the real world. I think it's interesting that you see even here attached to the chapel this deliberate connection between the other world and this world.
Yeah, there's not
Almost
even there's not even a transition zone like there normally is in the rest of Silent Hill.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You're
You're
walk
just
through
in
a
here.
door. Yep.
So, funnily enough, thinking more on that, the idea of what it would be like if they didn't have combat in here, I think it would lend credence not so much to... Oh, ow. It would lend
I'm
credence
just taking some hits here.
not so much to the confrontation with Claudia there, but the confrontation with the memory of Alessa back in the amusement park.
Yeah, very true.
I think it would add a little bit more...
You saying it would be great if Heather and Alessa just hugged it out?
What I'm saying is the memory of Alessa fight seemed really odd to me.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been more interesting if they'd been able to pull more theming changes out of it, a new transition once the memory had been defeated.
In my opinion, Silent Hill is a game that's really kind of begging to be weirder than it is. And I know that's a weird statement I just made.
It needed to be co-directed by David Lynch.
Yeah, I mean...
Also, why are there numbers written on the walls?
We could have had it all, PT.
I'm not sure, actually. So these are the actual... What we're seeing here is actually some of the real rooms in the chapel as we keep going through the Rust Blood Meat Men dimension.
Right.
I believe this, like...
I'm not cold.
Like, what we're going to see here is, like, Vincent's room and Claudia's room.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm starting to come around on the I don't need these shirts thing. She's very self-consistent about what she needs and does not need.
Bunch of papers in this file. Get the feeling it's a handwritten copy of some book. Represents the deity known as the Halo of the Sun. In heraldry, symbolizes a religious group.
Which one? We won't tell.
The 2 outer circles are charity and resurrection. The 3 inner circles are present, past, and future. Usually drawn in red, occasionally drawn in black or other colors, but blue reverses the meaning into a curse on God and is therefore forbidden.
So one of the things that's curious is before we go and fight the split worm, there is actually a blue halo of the sun on the door leading to that place. Now, one thing that's interesting is they say that the 3 circles represent the past, present, and future, and the other ones represent charity and resurrection. And it's interesting for that reason that is also what represents our save point.
Yes.
There's going to be more said about the halo of the sun that is So there's actually so there's actually an in-canon explanation, or we're seeing the formation of an in-canon explanation for what the halo of the sun means.
Yes.
Oh, nothing
and
special.
And also why every time that Heather looks at it, she remembers slightly more stuff about Alessa and about the church and about her purpose to both of these things.
Also, for those who haven't seen Jacob's Ladder, this is very much that.
Also, all the wiggle head guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jacob's Ladder's real good.
So, and also I can't remember the name of the enemy, but it's like a throwback to the Mandarin enemy from Silent Hill 2, in that this place has a bunch of enemies that are hidden they're hidden in that little trench in the wall, and all they do is just kind of run around. Yeah, so now we also have the missionary at this point becomes a regular enemy.
Fun.
Yep.
Do you have a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior? You.
They're a lot less tough than the original missionary, but they are still fast and do a lot of damage.
His books look like real mind benders.
It's got some Sudoku in here.
Ooh, this one's open.
There's a book on tarot here.
Oh no, I can already tell this is going to lead to a puzzle that was way more annoying in the other kind.
Actually, yeah, there is.
Tarot was based on the 22 Hebrew consonants and is said to represent the entire world. Each card numbered 0 through 21 has a particular meaning. By reading these cards, fortune tellers predict the future. For example, the first card, the Magician, signifies creation, wisdom, beginnings, or destruction and fraud. The second card, the High Priestess, denotes intuition, harmony, faith, or dogmatism and arrogance.
22
According
pages
to some
later.
texts, the Gardner deck had more than 22 cards. The Gardner deck does not exist today. It is mentioned only in the literature. It is said that those extra cards were based on lost Hebrew vowels and denoted an otherworldly transcendental existence, i.e. God.
Is that sort of Kabbalism we're into?
I'm not very familiar with Cabal.
There's a sheet of paper here, but it's blank.
Yep, it's still blank. So there is going to be a tarot based moon puzzle, but it's not going to be as complicated as you think.
I just think probably going to be really annoying on hard mode.
Probably.
Hiya, Heather.
You show up everywhere, don't you?
You make me sound like some kind of unwanted pest.
Well, who are you anyway?
Haven't you realized that yet?
Yeah, you're on Claudia's side.
I told you not to put me in the same category as that mad woman.
Well, you're pretty loony yourself.
It's true. We believe in the same God. But I'm quite sane.
So why did you help me out then? Was that also part of trying to resurrect God?
It's not uncommon for people to worship the same God and still disagree.
God? Are you sure you don't mean devil?
Whichever you like. The point is that now I really am on your side. I don't want God to be born. Wouldn't be convenient. Much too unpredictable.
So you've been using me to stop Claudia, is that it? Do your own dirty work.
My dirty work? I think we both had our own interests in mind. You hate her too, don't you? You're the only one who can get it done. I don't have powers like you two. Besides, I always hated getting all hot, sweaty.
Oh, really?
I'm just looking out for myself. Everyone does it. Don't stand there looking so smug. You're the worst person in this room. You come here and enjoy spilling their blood. And listening to them cry out. You feel excited when you step on them and snuff out their lives.
Are you talking about the monsters?
Monsters? They look like monsters to you? Oh no. Don't worry. It's just a joke.
Fucking Vincent.
He looks like he read in a book what a smile looks like.
By the way, I forgot to ask. Did you get the seal of Metatron?
What's that?
You don't have it? Leonard was carrying it.
You mean this thing?
Yes, that's it. As long as we have that, we're fine. Here, take this.
So James, you remember a couple of months back when you asked what if the Silent Hill that we're seeing through Heather is not the actual real Silent Hill, or what is actually being experienced?
Right.
So that delivers a possible answer. Also talking about other answers, I realize now that we talked about the. Let's see. Actually, I might be on to.
Plus, it's such a good line too.
Yeah. No, I like
Fuck.
the. Also, we're getting extra tarot cards that don't actually exist.
Is it a red tarot card though?
Nah.
So
I don't think it's an
one
especially
thing-
good
so-
card.
Oh, there we go. Big old book I got from Vincent.
Big old book.
The big ol' book.
This magic square with strong protective and dispelling properties is called the Viren 7 crest, or the seal of Metatron. It will bring results regardless of whether the target is good or evil. Its strength, therefore, places a very high burden on the caster. As it is also difficult to control, it is not usually used. This is why it bears the name Metatron, after the angel Metatron, or Metraton, also known as the agent of God.
So I'm going to dump a lot of info here.
Yeah, go for it.
So we were talking about the Halo of the Sun earlier, and I thought I wasn't supposed to talk about this, but I actually can. So we got the in-game explanation of the Halo of the Sun actually being sort of a magic symbol that represents the past, present, and future, and the infinite cycle of rebirth and resurrection. And there's a thing. There's an actual, speaking of this. Let's see. Speaking of. Okay, is she gonna read it? Yeah, she is. Sorry. We're also going to get into the Christian Apocrypha here.
Yeah, there is no religion that has remained unchanged from the moment it was founded. This one is no exception. When this religion fell into the hands of immigrants, it was deeply influenced by their own original Christian beliefs. For example, the traditional representatives of these primal gods may be given the names and descriptions of Christian angels. Thus, shared characteristics begin to appear. There is also one rare example of the chief deity, Creator of Paradise, or Lord of Serpents and Reeds, being dubbed with a demon's name. Of course, this was not done by believers, but by their opponents.
Okay, so back on the Halo of the Sun, we have the in-game explanation for how the save points work, and this kind of leads to Heather kind of slowly beginning to understand how they work. And this is Hiroyuki Owaku actually pointed out that the Halo of the Sun is actually sort of a meta plot element for the game, and we're going to see an explanation of this, but and this also, we never see this because I don't actually die in this run, but anytime that you get killed, and it's actually like in a place that is accessible, you'll see Valtiel show up and drag Heather away.
Yeah.
And there's two different interpretations that can come from this. One of them
I don't
is
actually
that,
think we've seen Valtiel at all in
we're
this
gonna see him
game.
pretty soon. He shows up around here.
Quite a bit here.
Yeah, he shows up, like, we get to see him a lot. So Valtiel drags Heather's body away, and there's two different interpretations of this. One of them is that he's going to take her away and basically do the ceremony to birth the god. But the other one, which I think is the one that Owaku interpreted, is that he drags her away and brings her back to life.
Yeah, so she can go through the birth herself.
And so this is one of the things that whenever the player saves, that is actually what is happening. That they're invoking this rite, and it becomes this meta plot element where where we actually become sort of the guiding hand of the cult, where Heather loses control of her own fate, and she is sort of, through our own actions, is forced to actually carry through the entire plan of the cult, more or less.
Can we talk a little bit about... Oh.
Also, yeah, we start going into impossible territory here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so this looks like her father's room. Not sleeping in the bed, though.
What a fun thing to say.
By the way, that theme
Musty
that was
diary
playing
on
over
the bed.
Vincent,
Mm-hmm.
I was getting almost an FF10 vibe off of that. With the chanting and the sort of light hip hop.
Yeah.
I sometimes have the sense, even now, that girl is a reincarnation of Alessa. I don't worry about it much now. That's all forgiven. You were unloved, Cheryl, or was that Alessa? Now Cheryl is Alessa again. No matter whose reincarnation she may have been, that girl was my most beloved treasure. But that name was a mistake. At the time I thought of her only as a replacement for my lost Cheryl.
Or is it Carol?
It's
When she
Cheryl.
knows the truth, will she feel bad? That's what worries me.
Thanks, Dad.
So it was Alessa after all. Do you have just a trace of one more memory left?
We're gonna have to fight that one too.
Haven't forgotten my sweet and gentle mother.
My point remains.
Yeah.
Oh, good, a stun gun battery. We're gonna
Your
need plenty of
favorite
those.
weapon.
Thanks,
Can we
Dad.
talk? Can we talk a little bit about Valtiel and like who he is?
Yeah, so I actually have so Valtiel, I think I said this earlier, but he was
We
designed
saw him once
he was
when we were
designed
on a ladder.
Yeah, so he was designed originally because he shows up occasionally, and he's sort of another monstrous companion-like figure, kind of like Red Pyramid or Pyramid Head, but he's not as direct because his focus is different. Because Red
He doesn't
Pyramid
ever
was sort
attack
of
you.
Red Pyramid was sort of a like a manifestation of like maleness and aggression and anger and all of these kinds of things, where Valtiel is actually a better representation of the halo of the sun, where he is charity and rebirth and nurture, which is why he shows up near Heather, kind of following her, but is never actively aggressive, never actually intervenes unless she dies.
Yeah.
And also, Valtiel in the Christian Apocrypha is one of the, I believe, is one of the other. I did some reading on the Christian Apocrypha, and I wasn't able to find much aside that from Valtiel was apparently one of the. There he is over there, attacking one of the nurses.
Hi, friend.
And he was one of the other like main agents of God. Second, also to Metatron, who in the Apocrypha is a Chancellor of Heaven, according to Jewish and Christian folklore. He's described as the highest of angels, the celestial scribe. He was also supposed to be. He is also the divine messenger, who could communicate to Adam and Eve because they just could not perceive God's voice.
Right.
He does not appear in any of the actual Christian or Jewish texts. And apparently in certain variations of the Bible he is referred to as Enoch.
Right.
Although according to the Jewish Apocrypha he was referred to as Metatron prior to his ascension as the Archangel.
Well, and it makes sense that there wouldn't be an angel by the name of Valtiel in most of the Apocrypha, because the name is a little bit too on the nose.
Yeah, the EL.
Well, the thing is, Valtiel translates to attendant of God, which is what all of the angels were, especially Metatron, who also had his own name.
I didn't actually know that. What's the root of Valtiel? I don't actually know the.
Well, isn't it ending any name with EL? Like basically of God.
Yes. And
so Val, like
that's why you get like Gabriel,
like valet, attendant.
That's actually where a lot of people have assumed that came from. That Vault is either from or the same base of valet or valet.
One of those is right.
Depends which English you're using.